All new at 4:30, the coronavirus pandemic has fueled another crisis, an alarming surge in eating disorders, especially among teens. The National Eating Disorders Association says it has seen a more than 58% increase in calls and texts to its helpline since the pandemic started, and more than a third of those are from teenagers between 13 and 17 years old. Joining me now to talk more about this is Dr. Laura Saunders, a psychologist at Hartford Healthcare's Institute of Living. Dr. Saunders, as always, thank you so much for being with us.
Hello, Erin.
So hearing those statistics, obviously very alarming. What do you think in particular has happened during the pandemic that could cause eating disorders to surge, especially among young people?
So we know that there have been a confluence of events in this global pandemic. But I think, one of the common themes is a loss of control. And, one of the things about eating disorders is it is all about control. So, it's getting better, right? We're coming out of this. I'm a little worried about the fall, but we're not going to talk about that because we're going to enjoy the summer first. So it's a loss of control, and it's a changes in routines. It's isolation. It's all those things that are really worrisome. And when everyone's stress level was so high, parents may have been a little distracted from seeing things that they would typically see, changes in their teens' behavior that they would notice typically at an earlier point. So things got a little out of control, a little too deep into the process before it was a noticeable problem, so that when an eating disorder was being noticed, it was more problematic than if you'd caught it at the early signs.
Parents who are watching this right now and may be concerned about their own children, what would you tell them are the biggest warning signs and the symptoms that they need to be looking out for?
So that's a great question. So these are the things that we really want you to start looking out for. We're looking out for those teens that are all of a sudden now on a highly restrictive kind of meal plan or food plan or diet or whatever word you want to use, right? They're on a really strict vegetarian diet, or they will only eat 2 or 3 items now. So to use a really strict diet. You're seeing unusual behavior around food, things that just are different. They're more secretive. They only want to eat in the room. They don't ever want to eat in front of anyone else. You're seeing them overeat, like eating a tremendous amount of food in one sitting. You're noticing that they always seem to want to leave the kitchen, leave the table, and then head into the bathroom, that there's no gap in time from when they might eat to when they might access a bathroom. Just a lot of restrictions. So you're trying to notice these changes in behavior when they are what I call kind of disordered eating before they become a full-blown eating disorder.
What do you say and do as a parent? Because I can imagine that there are probably some trigger words or things that you should avoid, and maybe there are places that you can turn to for your children. What's the best approach here? So I like to start with sort of what I call inquisitive or more open-ended questions. I do not suggest leading with, I think you have an eating disorder, right? That's not going to help anyone. But saying, like, I've noticed some changes in your eating, or you seem to be only eating, yogurt and apples, just kind of share what you're noticing. Start with that, because your observations as a parent are really powerful, because then your child can say, ooh, actually they are noticing, right? I see you leave the table immediately right after dinner. Like, what is going on? I'm concerned about you. So that's how I would start the conversation, in a more open-ended, inquisitive manner. And then from there, the hope is that you can get into a deeper dialogue if you think there is a problem. With teens, I always like to start with a pediatrician, right? What we know about eating disorders is that it can really affect you physically. It can affect not just your weight, but your nutritional status, your how you take in vitamins. Weight has a lot of different effects on the body. So I would want people to check with their pediatricians first, but start with an open-ended conversation. If you hit a wall and you don't get anywhere, then I would start to get a little more pressing with the questions. Well, a very important issue, and as always, you give great advice. Dr. Laura Saunders, thank you so much for being with us.
Take care, Erin.
You too.